Greetings to you all. Today's teaching I've titled National Traits, Characteristics, and Types. This is really in connection with in respect of the gods that are over particular nations. We tend to reflect their nature and their characteristics. By this, I'd like to mention, for example, as an example, that if you notice in the case of Abraham, through Isaac and into Jacob, there was a spirit of fear. In the case of Abraham, it was whenever he encountered foreigners or opposition, he thought that they wanted to kill him because of his wife. The same thing happened to Isaac, and we saw this spirit of fear in Jacob in his dealings with Laban, and also in relation to Sechem, when his daughter was raped. I don't know whether she's entirely that, but anyway, she had been humbled sexually, and what his sons did, Simeon and company, he was very fearful. He feared for his life. But anyway, what I'm saying basically is that every nation would tend to, all nations, because remember we are all assigned gods, will tend to reflect the nature and the characteristic of that god in that particular nation. And we have gods and lesser gods over communities, provinces, and regions that will express themselves, and their traits will be seen in the people. So characteristics is typical of a particular person, place, or thing. It is a feature or quality belonging typically to a person or a place or a thing, and serving to identify them or that particular group. A trait is a distinguishing quality or characteristic. Is the same thing, typically one belonging to a person that you would tend to express and reflect the nature and the characteristics of the God that is over you, presiding over you. A type is a category of people or things having common characteristics, which is exactly the point that we're talking about. Now, our starting off point now is, I've actually implied it in my brief introduction, is in Deuteronomy 32:7-9, and it reads, "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask your fathers, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the children of men, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of Israelites." This is disputed. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then 9, it reads, "For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob. Yashael is the lot of his inheritance." So he assigned all the nations, the 70 nations in Genesis, is it 10, to gods according to his assembly, but he reserved one himself, a nation which he created from one person, Abraham. And then we also know that he says, yes, that is his nation, that is his inheritance. But then he goes on to say that actually he shall inherit the nations. So whatever he gave over to all these other gods was a temporary thing. He was going to inherit the nations anyway. Okay, now talking specifically on verse 8, the contemporary the the contemporary English version reads no the contemporary English Bible and the contemporary English version, they read as follows: when God Most High divided up the nations, when he divided up mankind, he decided the people's boundaries based on the number of gods. The contemporary English version talks about he assigned a guardian angel to each of them, that is the nations, the 70 in Genesis 10. In the English easy to read version, it talks about he made as many nations as there were angels. We're talking about these guardian angels, the gods that we're talking about in the contemporary English Bible. In the English easy to read, the easy English version, the easy to read version, it reads, he fixed the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of sons of God. You are talking about his council. In the another translation, it reads, he assigned to each nation a heavenly being. In the International Standard Version, it talks about he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of children of God, which we covered earlier. In the Living Translation, it talks about supervising angels. In the and then in another translation, it talks about he set the boundaries after the number of divine beings. In the New Catholic Bible version, it talks about he established boundaries of the angels according to the number of the sons of God. In the New English translation, it talks about the boundaries of peoples according to the number of the heavenly assembly. In another translation, we talk about according to the number of the angels in his heavenly court. In another, we talk about according to the number of gods. So basically, each nation, and of course there are now more than 70, but it actually is a fragmentation of the original 70. So basically, you still have the same God over even the fragmented bits. They would actually be expressing themselves in those nations, their characteristics and their traits and their types and their nature will be expressed. And so you tend to get national traits in a nation. Like, for instance, you can get a national trait of arrogance or chauvinism, or in the case of, I think, the Greeks, of reason and philosophy. You can have national traits of power, military, or some other form of power. You can have the trait of a submissiveness. But those are all traits that we are talking about that you can find in a nation. And of course, that will be the overarching one over the nation. But in addition to that, over provinces and regions and towns and suburbs and provinces, you would have other spirits that will be expressing themselves in addition to those ones. And now, this brings us now to the whole concept of national traits, characteristics, and types in Titus 1:12, and it reads, on one of them, a prophet of his own said, this is Peter talking about the Cretans, was quoting one of their own prophets, a philosopher, saying that the Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. And he found that to be true, because this person had perceived that this is a national characteristic. The expanded translation of this reads, even one of their own prophets said, Cretans are always liars, evil, animals, beasts, and lazy people who do nothing but eat. They are gluttons. And he was quoting from a certain prophet, a poet from Crete, Epimenides, of the 6th century. And he went on to confirm that what he said then was actually true, was actually the truth about Cretans. So the point here, the point of this message is basically that when you move from country to country, province to province, regions to regions, suburb to suburb, you must try and find out the spirit that is operating, that has got an overarching influence over that area, so that you are able to perhaps deliver, preach more effectively, pray for a breakthrough through that spiritual barrier in that region or that suburb or that province or that town. So it's just basically an awareness which I'm trying to highlight here, that we must be aware of these spirits. At the same time, we have now in John 1:47, Jesus now talking, it's 47 to 50. He's talking about the same concept. And he says, Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, and he said to him, behold, an Israelite, indeed, in whom is no deceit. Then, of course, and then in the Amplified Translation, it talks about, then Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him, and he said to him, here's an Israelite, indeed, a true descendant of Jacob, in whom there is no guile or deceit or duplicity. That's the Amplified Translation. In the Common Jewish Bible, it talks about, here's a true son of Israel, nothing false in him. In the Contemporary English version, it talks about, and he isn't deceitful. The Expanded Translation talks about no deceit, no guile. There's nothing false in him. We talk about, there's another translation which talks about Israelite, him being an Israelite who's sincere, and there's nothing false in him. He's a true son of Israel. There's no deception to be found in him. He is a man of complete integrity in the Living Translation. In the Orthodox Jewish Bible, it talks about the Ben Yeshroel. I think that should be Ben Yashael, which is the son of Israel, in whom there is no deceit. In the Voice Translation, we talk about an Israelite who is a truth teller. In the the translation, it talks about he is a true Israelite. So basically, this is the truth. I mean, if Jesus said it is true, these national characteristics can be found in people, depending on where they are, where they live, where they were born. and the powers that are over that region, over that country, provinces, regions, suburbs, towns, cities, as it cascades. But there will be a general trait. Like, for instance, there are some nations there's a nation that is particularly arrogant, but that's the overarching one. But if you go from state to state and town to town, you'll find other spirits that will be expressing themselves in those areas and in those people. So in the end, Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him and said, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." That's a revelation. And then Jesus answered him and said, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe?" That's a question. And he says, "You will see greater things than these." So basically, the point I was trying to point out is that there are national traits, characteristics, and types according to the gods that were assigned to us in Genesis 10. And on this point, I would like to point of introspection, a moment of introspection and meditation out of Revelation 10:9 from the expanded translation. And it reads, "So I went to the angel and told him to give me the small scroll. And he said to me, 'Take the scroll and eat it,'" symbolizing the internalizing of the word. "It will be sour, bitter in your stomach because it is a message of judgment, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey because it is God's word and because it brings salvation and vindication to his people." And our benediction comes out of Numbers 6 verses 22 to 27, again from the expanded translation. And it reads, "The Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you should bless the Israelites. These children of Yashael, say to them, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord guard you. May the Lord show you kindness and be gracious to you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you. May the Lord watch over you. May the Lord lift up his face, presence, countenance upon you and give you peace." So Aaron and his sons will bless the Israelites with my name, put my name upon the children, upon the children of Yashael, and I will bless them. And the last sentence is from the Common Jewish Bible, and it reads, "And in this way they are to put my name on the people of Yashael, so that I will bless them." Thank you, and may God bless you all.